story is called The Story. Once, long ago, a pen meant an empty notebook page. The pen bled and bled all over the place. In the spot where the spill occurred, the story grew. The story was a very strange form of life. The world it lived in was flat. Sometimes you could see a pair of eyes buried down in the world above. Other times it was simply trapped in the dark, folded between pages and apparently forgotten. The story wanted to escape this place. One summer evening, when the eyes appeared from above, the story heard a voice relating to someone else what the story was about. Another voice asked repeatedly, "Really? No, really?" Suddenly, without warning, the story was torn away from its paper world and found itself hurtling through space. The story's words were being spoken by someone to someone else. Each sentence, one by one, was being torn from the page it had been printed on, pulled away by the eyes reading it, and shot cannon-like through the mouth that belonged to those eyes. The story was terrified. Through the air it flew. It was only able to catch the slightest glimpse of this new world, one that had depth as well as surface. This place was like nothing else it had ever seen. Nothing like what it had lived on before. As the story looked behind itself, it could see that the mouth belonged to an aging woman, who was alternatively looking at the book from which the story had come and back again at a young boy. The story was hurtling towards the child at incredible speed. It shot straight into the boy's ear canal. Now the story was plunging down a hole that went into the boy's head. It exited the hole, and the scenario changed once again. The story was whirling around somewhere inside the child, but it wasn't like the inside of anything. Whatever this container was, it didn't seem to have any sides. And what was more, something seemed to be grabbing at the story's words, grasping at whole phrases, twisting entire sentences, pulling so hard the story thought it might carry them away from the major plot. The ferocious hands would let go momentarily, only to resume their attack somewhere else. All the time this was happening, the child's voice thundered all around. What happened next? What happened? Eventually the attack stopped. The voice is silent, and the story recovered itself to realize that its narrative framework hadn't actually been broken. However, it had suffered a badly sprayed connecting phrase and a dislocated exclamation point. The story realized it was somewhere else now. This is a different container, and this one definitely had sides. Sides that were far too close together. The story pounded on the wall as hard as it could, echoes ringing in its ears. Before long, a voice answered, "Hey, keep it down, will ya? Some of us are trying to sleep in here." The story answered, "Who's there? And where is this place?" The answer came, "This place is called Memory. As for me, I'm a nursery rhyme. I've been here for years." "You mean we're stuck here? I'll be forever?" "No, don't worry. He'll get out as soon as he remembers you." "Well, I hope that's soon," replied the story, and drifted off to sleep. The story was awoken with violent yank. It was being pulled from the box it was in. A few violent ricochets and a tumble through a voice box later, the story was fired through the boy's mouth. It was the following day, and the boy was in school. "Listen to what happens next," the boy said. The story flew through space, in and out of ear canals, through other heads, and felt itself carried on the wind. It was terrifically exciting. "I hope I don't end up in that box again," the story said. "This is fun out here." The story got its wish, for a time at least. It lived suspended between voices and floating in and out of heads. First here, then there. One moment it was spinning in someone's imagination. The next it was lingering over a family's dinner table. At one point, it occupied the living room for an entire TV commercial. It was existing in 100 places at once. Sometimes it got a bit longer, other times it got mixed up with another story. Frequently, it found itself exaggerated. It had never known life like this. But alas, nothing lasts forever. One day, the world just seemed smaller. There weren't so many voices to ride, and when the story did poke itself out of someone's mouth, it could barely get its entire plot off the ground. Once descending into an ear canal, it bounced right off a wall. The passage just stopped dead. So the story looked for other ways to be told. They were coming few and far between. What would happen when the story had no more bounds to tell? Finally, one day, the inevitable happened. Someone, apparently, the last person anywhere who actually knew the story, began to tell its tale. The sentence slipped out into the air one by one with frightening sluggishness. Something was about to go wrong in the story. Felt it coming. With little more than half its narrative framework hanging out in space, the passage closed. The story screamed in terror. It had been severed into just a little climax. The last it heard of the outside world was a voice saying, I can't remember what happens next. The story fell back from the world of depth it had come to know. It felt a tremendous weight crushing down on it, infinitely heavy, till it was as flat as it could possibly be. It remembered this place. This was the page it had been written on. It was back in the book it escaped from all that time ago. Would another pair of eyes come to rescue it? Would it have another chance to run amok through little children's heads? Indeed, it was too late for that. The book had been, at some point, discarded into a forgotten corner, decomposing in the space consigned to it. The story would be told no more. There, the story perished. The pages it inhabited fell victim to the elements, until the holes that appeared in its pages grew until every last letter was consumed. As the story's substance gave way to dust, it had a final thought. What if this experience of my life had been a story in itself, and I told it to someone else? Would I live again? I am.